Welcome in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, yes, we are live. Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Josh Jacobs. How are you guys?
Very good, thank you.
Well, we're happy to be back with you after our 4th of July break last Sunday night.
And a couple earthquakes.
I'll tell you what.
I wish they'd stayed in Colorado. I was there last week. It didn't have the earthquakes there.
Boy, I'll tell you. Well, it was a wild ride, and it reminds us that we're here in California. It also reminds us that earthquakes are quite obviously serious. In fact, there should be no modifier for the word earthquake. A little one is still a very large event, and the worst of them are damaging. And it reminds us all of just how precious public resources are, and how few things government really has to do, and how many of those things they're just not capable of doing. And as we look at this this earthquake problem here, the one that they had up in Ridgecrest and those other local areas up there, could just as easily have been down here. And the fact is, we don't have the kind of money that we need to meet our emergency responsibilities. And yet, we have a state legislature here that can't help California families fully, that is decided to sign up for full medical care for all illegal aliens or anybody else who can manage to make it across the border with a line of crap. They get to have full medical care supplied through our taxes, and yet we taxpayers are not furnished with similar problems. In other words,
maybe should we just say we identify as illegal because in these identifying times we can maybe do that?
Well, yeah, right, exactly. Only they're on to us. So if we show up claiming we're a victim, they'll say, no, you are hereby denied accredited victim status, which is what so many people are looking for in life. They're looking for the opportunity to become an accredited victim. I first read this.
Is there a card for that?
Well, there is kind of. I first read about this back in the 70s and 80s, and I don't know whether I developed that phrase or heard it from somebody else. I'll just assume I heard it from somebody else, and whoever used it first, I'll give you credit. So don't accuse me of stealing the phrase.
Hopefully, get paid for the
well,
the phrase.
It is, but Ayn Rand is one of those people that talks about victimhood. She's the great modern libertarian writer and philosopher. She's the one who wrote Atlas Shrugged and a number of other books, including Attila and the Witch Doctor. The choices that man faces between competing forces of organized religion. I disagree with her on that, of course, but she pointed out that you've got Attila and the Witch Doctor, between the guys with the guns and the guys with the false ideas. Each of them is trying to get control of man. So in our modern socialist society, we call them identity groups or whatever, but what they actually represent, each of them, is a victim. So if you're a woman who isn't getting out of life, whatever you want, well, you blame it on men. Blame it the hell on anybody.
And I tell you, there are some politicians and leaders who are very skilled at appealing to them.
They are.
And a lot of them are in the Democratic Party right now.
That's right.
I think Obama was very good at appealing to victims.
Yeah, he was. There's a whole cadre of them.
And sadly, it's spilled over to Republicans as well, because there's too many Republicans in California that say, well, California's a lost cause. We might as well just give up, woe is me, instead of fighting back. So
Yes.
it's affected Republicans. It's affected conservatives and libertarians and those pro-liberty, limited government folk as well.
That's right. Yeah, it has a terrible deleterious effect on everybody, and the fact is, people who are victims, we can identify with a homosexual who has been badly treated by somebody because of his sexual orientation or her sexual orientation. Of course, we can identify that, or somebody who's fat and got called fat. Somebody who's ugly got called ugly.
I tell you, when I was a kid, when I was in 8th grade, my body hadn't grown.
You got called all three.
No, but my head was the same size as it is now, but my body was half the size, and they called me Jughead. So I was a victim.
There you go.
Did you have a friend named Archie at least?
Right.
Jughead.
Jughead, Archie, Veronica, the girlfriend. Well, boy, are we dating ourselves here. But in any event, all of society is organized around seeking accredited victimhood status. And once you're an accredited victim, then society is supposed to line up as a whole and take care of your problem.
And celebrate you.
And celebrate you, yeah.
Well, I mean, we just finished Pride Month.
That's it, man.
I tell you what, a whole month of celebrating,
Yeah.
I guess, we all need a month now, right?
Oh, that's right. Exactly. Yeah,
we Southerners need a month.
Yeah, that's right.
Redneck month.
But see,
Redneck Pride.
You can't have, of course, an accredited victim unless you have a certified victimizer.
Or victimhood
an
month.
Oppressor. No, if you're going to be oppressed, there must be an oppressor. That is the yin and the yang of liberal victimhood. But what underlies it all, and why is it that a man who experienced every privilege there is to have, Barack Obama and other politicians, why would they indulge this? Well, because when you claim victimhood status, what you must concede is your dependence upon the person who's giving you this accreditation, and that is the state, the government. And the government says, or this referee, this mastermind who's going to control this whole process, says, hey, look, you can be a victim here, Jonathan, if you want. You just pick whatever it is, kind of victimhood that you want. You claim it. But in order to do that, you have to sell me your soul. You have to concede your personal liberty and be willing to oppress somebody else, take all of their freedom and money away from them. Because after all, don't you notice that the only solution ever offered to your victimhood status is the promise of that person in power to take the money or the liberty of some other group of people and force them to change their behavior and force them to, in the most significant behavior, meaning their spending behavior, they're going to have to turn over more of their money, more of their property, more of their freedom to the government or to whatever group of people it is who's going to arbitrate these various problems. We, on the other hand, understand that we suffer from many of those same problems, but we're determined to go at these things on our own or to seek the cooperation, the willing cooperation of others, particularly of our families, in working to overcome our difficulties. And this is where we are on the 4th of July of 2019. And how very, very far away we are from our beginnings. It was 243 years, something like that. Yeah.
We need to give people a hand up, not a hand out. As the old saying goes, you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man
Can you name me one Republican who believes that?
Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Name me two.
Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, okay, there might be a few.
Mark
My
Meadows.
point,
Devin
ladies.
Nunez.
Huh?
Devin Nunez?
I'm not so sure that Devin
I don't
Nunez would come out and say that. By the way, talk about a man with presidential qualities of courage, discernment, guts. Oh man, that guy's got it in spades. There's a man who, even though he lacks a large political base in California, is certainly the kind of guy that we need to be considering for the next time around. Mm-hmm. And when you look at all those guys, we've got a good group of people. Got Tom Cotton. Mm-hmm. How about Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of
mm-hmm.
State? Solid guy. Devin Nunez. Mm-hmm. We've got a range of others with comparable qualities, but not necessarily presidential appeal. Mark Meadows, a number of those other guys. We still have Ted Cruz out there, mm-hmm. although it seems to me he's been kind of quiet since the last election.
Well,
I don't know.
Nearly lost the election. A couple of things happened there. I mean, Beto O'Rourke had 3 times as much money as Ted Cruz did, which didn't help matters. Because the thing is, the Republican governor of Texas had won by 14 percentage points, while Cruz won by about 3 percentage points. So it's kind of like, what just happened there?
Mm-hmm.
And the candidate, Governor Abbott's opponent, was a female gay Hispanic. So, mm-hmm. I'm surprised that they didn't rally around her like they did Beto.
Whose opponent was that?
Oh, Governor Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas.
Oh, yeah.
So, but the thing was Beto mania, Beto this, Beto that. He rides around on a skateboard. It was all this personality.
He's just a dork. That's what Mark Levin calls him.
Beto O'Dork.
Beto O'Dork. Boy, he nailed that one.
Well, the thing
I have another name for him, but I can't use it on the air.
Did you see the picture of him or the film of him getting his hair cut and then his ear hair trimmed or whatever? I forget what it was. It was really weird.
Yeah, I mean, everything about this guy is weird.
He's a strange dude.
He is, but no stranger than the rest of them. I mean, is there a normal one up there? The only guy who might pass for normal was Hickenlooper. They almost lynched him.
Yeah, because he said socialism is not the answer. He
says,
right. We've got to go after moderates.
Delaney is somewhat reasonable, too.
Yeah, he does. Delaney, he makes sense, too, because he doesn't want to get rid of private insurance. At least he says he doesn't want to. Whether that's true or not, who knows? Yeah. But the thing was that a bunch of others, like Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, want to get rid of private insurance, which polls terribly because most people, even if they do favor even those who favored a government option, still favor a private choice or a private option, if you will.
Hey, by the way, out there, I forgot to ask you. We got to talking right away. Our telephone number here is 866-870-5752. We'd love to have you be part of the program and weigh in here on the topics that we're discussing here, kind of catching up. We don't have a super formal program tonight. We're covering a lot of different issues that have come up over the last couple of weeks. But, one thing that interests me that is finally starting to rise up to a higher level is this homelessness problem, which has become that's been a problem for a long time and a popular issue. Libs and other left-wing nut jobs push this thing all the time. But what's interesting is that Donald Trump has started to weigh in on it. Now, why do we at Radio Free Los Angeles find this interesting? Well, we find it interesting because Donald Trump is starting to help point in the same direction that Radio Free Los Angeles points all the time, which is don't forget what's going on in the cities. Don't forget what's going on in the counties or the states. They are huge parts of our overall problem. If we look at the cost of housing, look to local government as a big contributor. In fact, here in preparation for this show tonight, trying to curry favor with the host, Josh did looked up.
Please, Mike, please.
Well, you got a winner. There's just all these untold riches out there of things that we talk to you about all the time. But we've said many times that homelessness is of course, a complex problem, but at root, it is the cost of housing. We can't say that the cost of housing is irrelevant, because at the margins, it certainly has to contribute to the large population of people who insist that they cannot afford an apartment or a place to live, or they would live there. So I don't know what percentage of the homeless people there are. There'll no doubt be a $100 million study that'll be done next week by Harvard or something, and they'll come up with the answers. With the bottom line being we have to pay more money.
Is that where Harvard's money is going right now?
But in the meantime, this article on the impact of local regulation on the cost of housing, you found this in L.A. Pravda, didn't you?
Yeah,
That's the Los Angeles Times. And out there, Los Angeles Times reporters, I dump on you guys all the time, and believe me, you deserve it most of the time. But when you do something really good, I like to credit it. I think you guys have been great on pensions, and you've been great on some other issues. I can't think of them right now. When I do, I'll mention them. But this area that you're going into now of trying to understand the impact of local municipalities on the cost of housing and this vastly expanding bureaucracy that we have and its impact on housing, that's a great direction to go in. Now, how you reconcile that with your politics and being the liberal sob sisters that you are, I'm not sure how you do that, but you certainly have good instincts if you're going after these bureaucrats. So give us a brief summary, if you would, Josh, of what you found in that article.
Yes, the articles tell one reason for the high cost of housing in California may surprise you. Overregulation. It was written by James Bruffel and Emily Hamilton, their research fellows at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University.
Oh, that explains it.
Yeah, but hey, good for them for getting them.
Yeah, how did they sneak in there?
Well,
they must be unpaid interns.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Anyway, the California Code of Regulations. Listen to this. Compiling the state's administrative rules contains more than 21 million words.
That's
so
it.
if you worked 40-hour week, it would take you 6 months to get through it. Now, just think
which
about this.
department is this? Whose regulations?
The California Code of Regulations,
yeah.
The state's compilation of the state's administrative rules. I mean, just think about that. That's bigger than War and Peace, the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Talmud, the Quran, the Pearl of Great Price, all put together.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
And there's included in the code are 395,000 restrictive terms such as shall, must, and required.
Right. There's a gun behind each of those words.
And the Code of Regulations contains more restrictive terms, more than 75,000 than some states' entire codes.
Yes.
And the residential housing subsection alone has nearly 24,000 restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they talk about the average or median price of a home, I think, in this article as well. I think it's about 200,000 nationwide, and in California in general. Mm-hmm. Even in the affordable Inland Empire, it's about $500,000.
Right,
and it's much more in Los Angeles. Now they do have solutions, which is great for this article. Cutting red tape is a bipartisan issue. They talk about being done in Idaho, Missouri, and Kentucky. They even said that the California legislature have led efforts to reduce regulatory barriers, but obviously not enough.
Yeah,
now,
play California Dreamin' in there, Jeff.
So
I
know.
Right.
But then here's something good news out of Rhode Island, if you live there. The Democrat-dominated Rhode Island government recently eliminated more than 30% of its rural volume by setting an expiration date for its entire regulatory code, forcing state agencies to start fresh.
Called sunsetting.
So basically they're doing a lot of what President Trump's doing, because Trump, when he came in office, he says, for every new regulation, I'm going to take away 2 old ones. In reality, he's taken away 4 old ones for each new one. So it used to be about 90,000 pages of regulations before when he took office. Now it's down to about 45,000.
Right. Now all we have to do is keep him in office for 100 years.
Yeah.
And we can pare that thing back 20%.
Well, he does have offspring. He's got 10 grandkids.
So. I'll vote for his daughter. I'm going for Ivanka.
Yeah, she's got my vote.
Yeah, man, that's it. I'll be a Democrat. I'll vote twice for that one. and hey, wasn't it a lot of fun on the 4th? Did anybody watch that special, the Trump show?
Yeah,
right?
I watched the speech.
I watched the speech. Yeah,
it was good.
It was good.
And I don't think he used the word "I" more than once. Maybe when he said he was I am happy to be here, something like that.
Yeah, I thought he nailed it. Except
absolutely.
when he talked about how we took over the airport, the Revolutionary War soldiers took over the airports. Did he mean seaports?
Well,
See, that's the thing we can laugh about. Leftists are like
outraged
outraged about him.
Humor.
They have no sense of humor about
Right.
this. They're like saying, "Oh, look, he talked about airports during the Revolutionary War." It's like,
he's so disconnected.
Yeah.
come on. It's like we all make mistakes. We're all human.
Do you follow the Babylon Bee on Facebook?
Yeah.
They said that Trump said that we kicked the crap out of the British colonies on the moon.
What?
They just took it one step further. They said our Revolutionary Army took to outer space and kicked the crap out of the British colonies on the moon.
Well, what I was very interested in, and maybe we got some space geeks and weenies out there who can tell us, but Trump made a very big deal. It will not receive the Kennedy treatment about taking us to the moon before the end of the decade, as they did in 1969, the 60s. But he promised that we'd fly the American flag on Mars. Now, that's a noble aspiration, fantastic. Next big step in the space program. I don't think it's going to happen in 4 years.
No, everybody seems to agree that was a little overambitious.
Yeah, just maybe a tad. But in any event,
hey, he's got vision.
He got vision,
Yeah, exactly.
right? I know. Nobody else except his supporters seem to be able to enjoy this guy. A lot of us who support him do shake our heads and laugh and say, "Well, there he goes again." But
he's very. Let's just put it. He's very hyperbolic.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he can go crazy. So hey, I
think it's funny. The only thing they had on him was that faux pas about the Revolutionary War airport, because for weeks it seemed like the media was saying he's going to politicize this event. He's going to give a very political speech. It's going to be a political rally.
Yeah.
When they didn't, that's all they.
I know.
He took over the airport.
Well, you notice also here. I saw a little blurb in the Drudge Report tonight. Today actually talking about how Trump's numbers are starting to bump up, but the reason they're bumping up is because the Democrats are and the media are kind of regrouping. The last 443 things that they tried didn't work.
I'm just sick of all this criticism of him, aren't you? It's
Yeah.
not even
And
entertaining
even
anymore.
the thing
It's
is that
just-
even those who were not fans of him are probably thinking, "Oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
media is just beating up on this guy." It's kind of like, I hate to say this, but there's all the beating up on Obama that happened. Not anywhere near what is happening with Trump, but even then, people did, like the moderates and the independents, thought, "Oh my gosh, you're being up on poor Obama." Now they're those
Clinton
same people.
saw a bounce when he was taking all that about Lewinsky.
Oh, yeah.
he saw a bounce
Big
in the
time,
polls
yeah.
because people started to feel sorry for him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's it did happen, but they've stopped being. Well, that music that you're hearing means that we're coming up on the end of our first half hour.
Yeah, give us a
But,
call,
yeah.
866-870-5752. We want to know where you were during the earthquakes last week.
All right, back with you, Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, and Josh Jacobs. Back with you after the break.
in Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and Editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
Hey, I'm live, all right? I almost said I need a whiskey while we were live, but at any rate...
Hey, I think you could bring whiskey into the studio. I think that's legal, right?
Oh, yeah. No, well,
cigars, I don't think you can get away with that.
I don't think so, but these Salem people, they're pretty Christian. I think they might.
Frank Pastore, when I was producer of his show about 7 years ago, he used to vape in studio.
Yeah.
Really?
And he's like the only... He joked that he was like the only person ever thrown out of Bible University for dipping and chewing in class.
Dipping and chewing.
Chew tobacco.
Well, I'll have to say, no, when we come in here, we're just joking. We're very serious. This is our time that we get to spend with you, talking about very important issues, and we can have a drink later. Meanwhile, if you'd like to join our show here, our telephone number is 866-870-5752. We're going to continue our show tonight by talking about various issues related to California finance, a perennial topic on this show, as you know, to show the relationship between what happens at the federal level and what happens here at the state and local level. We'll talk a lot more about it. At the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour, as you know, we go till 9:30. At the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour, we will have on our ever popular, increasingly well-known feature called the Government Grifter of the Week Award, and you're going to be shocked by what you see and hear, as always, but it has a purpose. I hope you're not getting tired of it. Disgusted? Yes. But tired of our feature? No, you can't be armed too much when you're talking with people who like to make victims out of public employees. They're not. They're predators. They make way too much money for what they do. And I'm tired to listen to sob-sister Republicans, in addition to sob-sister Democrats, talking about fire and safety like these were sacred persons of some sort, when you have so many of them walking off with $500,000 packages at the end of the year. So we'll talk about all those. In the meanwhile, a good friend Brent has called us up to share a few of his observations about the 4th of July. Line 1, Brent, how are you this evening?
Great. Happy 4th to you, Mike, John.
Hey, same to you.
Thank you, Brent.
Happy Independence Day to everybody.
Yes, and to the country.
Yes.
And I suggest Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, nothing better. A little Maker's Mark, a little Bullet. There's so many other good ones. Boy, I tell you.
I find myself drinking more American whiskey. I used to drink Scotch, but now I'm going American.
Yeah.
Did you hear about Jim Beam? They had like 45,000 barrels that caught on fire over the week.
Now, that's a tragedy.
I know.
What the hell with earthquakes? We lost 45.
I think it was 45,000. That sounds like a lot. But
my
unbelievable.
Goodness. Yeah.
Wow. It happened to another whiskey maker about a year ago where the building collapsed. I forget the name of that company.
I think it's terrorism.
Yeah, it is. It damn well is.
Whiskey phobia.
Bourbon is a national treasure.
It is. I think it's those out of control Scots that are over here making war in our bourbon factories there. Fire away, Brent. What you got for us tonight?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the magnificent, inspiring, uplifting speech that President Trump gave on the 4th of July, and the wonderful fireworks and the music and the presentation that apparently Los Angeles was boycotted from seeing.
Oh, really?
Every television station in Los Angeles was focused only hour after hour after hour on the earthquake in Ridgecrest and Trona.
Uh-huh.
And they kept looping and looping and looping the same house that was burning because there was so little damage. They kept showing broken bottles. But it was amazing how only Channel 13 wasn't showing earthquake, but it wasn't showing the celebrations either.
Right.
So they tried to boycott the 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's just all throughout California or just Los Angeles, but this is really frightening.
Well, yeah, it is, and I wasn't aware of it because I do not subscribe to cable. I'm one of those cable cutters, and I end up watching a live stream on Fox News, and they in turn, I think they had a pool stream that was servicing everybody, all the networks, and as well as C-SPAN and so forth. So I got a great view of the whole thing. I thought it was good. And by the way, for those of you who are musically inclined, I sent off an email to the guys who were in charge of the music there. They had the U.S. Army band Pershing Zone, and they had that wonderful chorus. There's a men's chorus, one of the few in the country that was there. And I thought, and as you know, I'm a former Marine, but I'm not too proud to say that those guys did an outstanding job on the music, and the chorus was just first rate.
Yeah. And what I was just thinking when you said cable, I don't have cable. I was trying to see it through the regular channel 2, 4, 7, CBS, NBC, ABC, right here, that comes through the air. I'm old school. And it was, and they were treating the earthquake like it was the 1906 San Francisco earthquake.
Right.
It was surreal.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
And also just about the speech, they charged that it was partisan. It was not partisan.
It wasn't. No.
It was
I didn't hear a word about that there.
Well, the
not
left
at
sees
all.
anything patriotic as partisan.
Yeah, that's it. How did that get to be? It certainly is how they operate. That's for sure. And now this is why the left and all these people just need to be told no. We're not. You don't need to talk to them. You need to just shut them up because they start popping off about how the flag makes them feel uncomfortable. Now, hey, and speaking of which, talk about people that go nuts. And nuts in Seattle seem to go along with each other. I'm a frequent critic of the police and fire from a fiscal and political perspective. I have no quarrel with what they do and appreciate the good job that they do. And it's really a terrible thing that you had a bunch of cops up in somewhere in Seattle.
No, Portland, are you talking?
Yeah, it was just some cops, just hang on, up in the city of Seattle, went into a Starbucks and doing whatever cops do, getting some coffee.
That was in Tempe, Arizona.
Was it Tempe?
Yeah,
oh, okay. Sorry about that. Well, cops went and do what they do, grab some coffee, shooting the breeze like other customers there. And apparently some manager, somebody complained, and the manager goes up to cops and asks them if they wouldn't please leave, that their presence is making somebody frightened, right? Well, the only people who are frightened would be those who maybe had a warrant out for their arrest, but my experience with those people is that they leave. They don't ask the cops to leave the Starbucks. They do it first. I don't know.
Isn't Starbucks a gun-free zone? It's like, come on. It's like, don't you want protection if somebody...
It is absolutely insane. So this has become a cottage industry of people breaking out their little hurt books. Remember the Rain Man, Dustin Hoffman in the Rain Man, and Tom Cruise, his brother character, does something to him, and Dustin Hoffman says, "Yeah, I'm putting in my hurt book." Raymond's hurt book, and he puts all these things that have been done to him. He writes them down. So we've got
people get so offended by stuff these days.
Yeah, because it
cops drinking coffee that makes somebody feel uncomfortable.
It gives them power over cops. Their claimed status of fear or of being offended now translates societally into political power, right? So now you have the power to tell cops where they can go or not go, as citizens. And of course, that same logic, if you find yourself not being sympathetic with cops, that same logic applies to all of us. So
they're going to put donut shops out of business if they get away with this anymore.
Well, yeah, exactly. What are they going to do? Absolutely insane. So I understand what you're saying, Brent, about losing the focus there. On the 4th of July, and more particularly on Independence. And, as we move so many years away from the 4th of July and Independence Day, the original one, the Declaration of Independence, it's difficult for me to conceive that our population would rebel against the British government or that same level of regulation and of control that we experienced there. I think that a lot of Americans would be happy to live under the British regime rather than living under our own current IRS.
Many Americans do not appreciate freedom or independence. They want slavery. They want the slavery of socialism.
That's right.
And and talk about being triggered. Well, I find myself being triggered by traitors.
Yes.
And the one exception to the rule of not giving coffee to police officers are the Portland police. I think when they go into a Starbucks, they should say, "You're not welcome here. You're a traitor." You watched a reporter, a gay reporter, being beaten almost to death in front of you, and you did absolutely nothing.
Right. Yeah, it's outrageous. Yeah, if you want to ban cops or what do they call that, shaming or whatever, you want to shame somebody, shame those guys for buckling under to the mayor of Portland, and those cops had a duty not only as sworn officers, but they had a right to intervene as a citizen to protect another citizen against criminal assault. Yeah, it's shameful. Whoever was beating that kid up, I'm surprised he didn't get help from anybody. Certainly, he didn't get help from the cops.
So, talk about violating civil rights.
Yes,
and the so-called old-fashioned civil rights organization who seems to pretend to care about that. Well, ACLU, you've heard nothing.
That's right. Well, when cops stand around and do nothing, that used to be a civil rights beef. And there have been a number of cases about that over the years. So it's amazing. Well, Brent, go ahead.
And like President Eisenhower, I hope President Trump gets involved in some of these Confederate states that are just violating civil rights left and right.
That's right. They're doing it again, mostly our rights. Brent, thanks so much for joining us. Have a good weekend, rest of the weekend here. We'll talk to you soon. Coming up on line 2, we got Tony from Santa Clarita. What's going on with you this evening, Tony? Glad to have you.
Hey, guys. Kevin Nunes? I think pretty soon something's going to happen that's going to embarrass Kamala Harris, something having to do with sanctuary state and some illegal alien criminal who should have been deported, and then he did something bad or whatever, and it's all going to blow up, and she's going to have to drop out. And when that happens, it may leave an opportunity for Nunes to take her in the next election.
I'd like to see. I'd like to see Nunes run for Senate.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That'd be kind of good.
It would be.
I don't think the Republicans and the rest of the country will even vote for a Californian, even if he is a Republican for president. The only chance he has is Senate. No way the rest of the country is going to vote for a Californian Republican. Never.
Well,
especially Texas and Florida. Texas and Florida hate us. They hate us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we know that, but
I think most of the country hates California. I mean, except maybe
even
probably
the
New England
Texas and Florida hate us.
No, actually, the East Coast does hate California. There's this rivalry. Like New Yorkers, I had a classmate in New York many years ago. He said the first thing out of his mouth was, "I hate California. It's full of a bunch of phonies." He was a very opinionated New Yorker. I laughed at him, but the thing was, he was right. Californians are phony. New Yorkers will tell you like it is.
Wait, now, and where did this conversation take place? What zip code?
It took place at Cal State LA.
Well, there you go. Right. Talk about phonies.
New Yorker. No, this was a New Yorker who was in my class. He was originally from New York.
Well, exactly.
Why did he come to California?
Yeah, that's it. See, talk about the phony.
Yeah.
Talk about cognitive dissonance.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
Okay, Tony. So, you think that Kamala Harris is going to drop out, or you think that
something having to do with sanctuary? Some illegal aliens should have been deported. They didn't refer them to ICE, and then he did something really bad. And it's like not just one, but like a lot.
Well, I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and I don't blame you for having that that opinion. But this is good a time to talk about the phenomena that we deal with in politics all the time. You would think that that all that you would have to do would be to find and prove that particular fact about a Democrat or a left-winger, and that having discovered that fact, having proved it, that it somehow will discredit somebody on the left. And I'm here to tell you, Tony, that never happens. It doesn't. And we have all this negative information out there right now. For example, this coup. Well, nobody is really talking that much about it on the left. Certainly not in the news. And the Republicans are talking about it. Talk about facts which ought to discredit everybody from Obama on down. It would be this failed coup. The full extent of which, and the full depth of which, we have yet to discover. We're only at the very first third of this problem at best. What it takes to make something stick in politics, Tony, is a combination of the media, but the opposition party is what absolutely has to come into play. And right now, the Republicans are hiding. And they don't go out there to take up this battle against anybody, do they?
He hung up.
Oh, he hung up. All right. Well, I hope I didn't.
Thanks for calling, Tony.
Yeah, Tony, we appreciate you calling in there. Now, before we, our telephone number here once again is area code 866-870-5752. And remember, this is listener-sponsored radio, Patriot-sponsored radio. To be part of who we are and what we're doing here, where do they go, Jonathan?
Go to radiofreelosangeles.net. Yep. radiofreelosangeles.net, and that'll take you to our school choice website.
Yes.
And just click the contribute button, or you can subscribe. Contributions as low as, do $5 a month. That goes a long way with us.
It's huge because that is what's lacking. And I want to talk here about a city, then I'm going to connect it up with our larger point here about how and why we lose California. And once again, it's because you talk about Devin Nunes, wonderful guy. Well, once again, we're leaving it up to a candidate himself to revive the entire party of the state of California. And I think if there's anything that would keep Devin Nunes from running, it would be the lack of a viable Republican Party in this state. So the first thing that Republicans need and conservatives need are a viable revenue model. Let's look at the revenue model that the left has. And there's no better way to have that discussion than to look at the city of Yucaipa. Remember, all cities are the same out there, ladies and gentlemen. Yucaipa, I believe, is out in Riverside County.
Yeah, I used to live in Yucaipa.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's right.
Riley's Farm is in Yucaipa.
Oh, it is? Yeah. Okay. That's good country out there.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's at an elevation up there, good people.
I had my Stater brothers. And
There's
no Bonds out there. It's all Stater brothers.
Yeah. Well, out there in Yucaipa, this managed to make the newspaper San Bernardino Sun. And they run in a newspaper like it was news. And here's what it is. Yucaipa City employees, from top management to office assistants, are getting a pay raise starting this month, but they'll pay more for their retirement. oh, I suppose we're just supposed to be in awe. We just have this hushed.
Hey, that's some positive, though.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
Yeah.
But wait till I get to the numbers here. So let's read the propaganda first.
Yeah.
And the reporterette here is Jennifer Iyer, Iyer. The city council late last month approved a 4.5% increase in salaries for both general and management positions, but also reduced the city's contribution to the California Public Employees Retirement System to zero. The city had been paying 1.33%. The employees will now be paying the full 7% employee contribution. All right, now, that is somewhat contradictory. I think that they were paying the employer's part and they were paying a large part of the employee's contribution. That's what happened in a lot of cities following 1998 changes in the law. The changes approved January 24th are part of 3-year agreements with the Yucaipa City Employees Political Pressure Democrat Operative Association and managers that started in 2017. Okay, so at any rate, now let's read. We get down to the bottom, we get to the meat. According to Yucaipa's 2019-2020 budget, the city owed CalPERS $4.85 million in August 2018. Due to growing liability, however, the city may pay the pension system about $8 million, and that's only if the arrears, it says, is paid off. It should be are paid off in 15 years. If not, the city could pay more. Well, yeah, honey. Jennifer, honey, call the program and we'll walk you through it. Now, here's what the real numbers are for 17, which aren't too terribly different than 18. But the city of Yucaipa there, had a pension deficit of $4,712. That must be the one that they're talking about. Now, that $4 million. 712,000, almost 5 million. Now, that's what CalPERS says, and CalPERS, when they run that number, are assuming, once again, that these investments of theirs are going to return this 7 or 7.5% compounded annual return over the next 30 years. Well, that isn't happening. It hasn't been happening for several years. There's no prospect of it happening. I mean, we're at the end of this, maybe at the end, but at least, we've been involved in this Trump bump, this huge expansion for several years, some of which started during the Obama administration, the expansion of the market. And even during this market expansion, they haven't gotten the returns that they needed. So what are the real numbers that are going to be needed? Well, we'll find that, pensiontracker.org. Repeat, pensiontracker.org. Go there, look up your favorite city, read and weep. So out in Yucaipa here, they're really trying to whistle past the graveyard because their total market pension debt, what they're actually going to have to pay off is more like $21 million. Not $5 million. It's like 4 times larger than that. And hey, Yucaipa morons on the council that just cut this deal with them. Why were you paying them any more money? You need to fire them. Your city is broke out there in Yucaipa, and so is the city of Glendale, the city of Los Angeles, Pasadena, Torrance, anybody else who can hear this voice. I assure you that your city and or your county are underwater because of the pension debt. Period. You shouldn't have been paying them. You should be firing them because we're going to come to the point here very soon where the only thing that we're doing is paying pensions and with a declining number of employees. The music that you hear means that we're at the end of our first hour. We hope you will join us in the second half hour tonight where we will continue our discussion about important financial issues, school choice update, and, of course, Government Grifter of the Week Awards. Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, and Josh Jacobs will be back with you after the break at the top of the hour.
Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, back with you here. Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Josh Jacobs here for Radio Free Los Angeles. We're happy to be with you tonight. We'd love to hear from you. 866-870-5752. And we'd also appreciate your support of this show and the efforts that we make to inform you and others about important political issues.
Yeah, and by the way, please, as I said before, go to our website. We really appreciate the support. RadioFreeLosAngeles.net. Want to thank a few people, contributors.
Yes.
Dale in Redlands.
Okay.
Has been really stepped up to the plate.
Yes, Dale. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, he is. And then Fran, who listens to the show, she just signed up for a monthly contribution. So,
love it.
Yeah. So right. I'll thank more as the show goes on.
Thank you very much for that update. And hey, what are you doing? We have our resident tennis pro here. That would be Jonathan Wilson. And we were just talking during the break about that on fire young black lady who's setting the tennis world on fire. And she, what's her name again?
Coco Gauff.
Coco Gauff.
Corey Gauff. Yeah.
Corey Gauff. Yeah. It goes by Corey or Coco?
Well, her name's Corey, but they call her Coco.
Okay, well, this girl is just amazing. We're hearing about her, and I was going into a restaurant here, local hamburger place, and they every place is you got the tennis match.
She's caught the hearts and minds of Americans. I tell you what, she's only 15 years old.
Probably the biggest thing since Tracy Austin back in the 1970s, who started at age 14 herself.
Youngest to ever qualify for Wimbledon, I think.
Amazing.
And she beat Venus Williams, who was who's over twice her age.
Right. And those girls, those Venus Williams, I think they're both from Compton, the local gals.
They're local. Yeah.
Yeah. And they seem to have come out of nowhere. And boy, have they dominated over the last 10 or 15 years.
They sure have, yeah.
It's just been astonishing.
Serena's still in the draw, so yeah. But tomorrow, Coco's got a tough match. She's playing Simona Halep, who I think is number 7 in the world.
Yeah.
And Simona's experienced, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how does is this at Wimbledon?
Yeah.
That we're watching the matches? Yeah. So where does it stand right now, and how does it work? How and when is a winner determined?
The draw starts with 128 players, and now we're down to 16, the round of 16.
All right.
And so then we'll have the quarterfinals midweek, semifinals Thursday or Friday, and then the finals will be Saturday.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's great. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
It's exciting. Wimbledon is the holy grail of tennis.
Yeah.
Not yet 16, but she's reached the Sweet 16 this year.
That's right.
Yeah, so with 16, we have 8 teams. They go to 8 teams, 8 combos, 2 players each. So we've got 8. That goes to 4, which goes
That's
to
the quarterfinals, and then the semifinals.
Then it goes to 1, where the winner takes all the lessons.
And obviously it gets tougher and tougher, as you go through the draw.
Yeah, so this young lady is really going to start.
I heard about it. I saw it on social media. It was during the day, because it's in England. And so I went home and watched the replay of it, and it was stunning. She saved 2 match points.
Yeah.
Was down, I think, a set and 5-2 in the second and came back to win in 3 sets.
Yeah.
It was stunning.
Yeah.
I mean, the stadium was just going nuts.
Yeah.
And the poor girl who was playing against her, I think she was a Slovenian. The whole crowd was going for this 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And so it made it tough for her opponent.
Yeah. Slovenia, that's where Melania is from. That's where my wife's family was ultimately from, which is part of Austria. They have good-looking women over there. Right, dear? Okay, good. I got to throw that in.
If you didn't throw in, you'd be sleeping on the couch, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'd just be toast. But at any rate, during the break, we were also talking about this pension problem, which we talk about all the time.
Well, yeah.
I
said, I get frustrated because, we can talk about it all day long, but what are we going to do? I mean, what can we do? And I don't see anything changing. I mean, perhaps these cities are going to start just going bankrupt.
Yes.
But they're not going to really change their spending habits.
No. This represents a big challenge. There are solutions. But these solutions, as Kissinger used to say, may not be politically achievable. He used to drop into that. It says it is too much to be expected. I'm not sure, but we know this, and I was talking with some people about this yesterday. Just how disappointing the financial situation is in the United States and what it is here. And it's a problem that permeates the entire system. So guys like us can sit here and we talk about these numbers, and it's almost a waste of time. And yet these issues are going to present themselves at the worst possible time. How does it work out as opposed to what are the solutions? So there's solution and resolution, right? Well, the solutions we know, you're going to have to cut payrolls, you're going to have to cut salaries, you're going to have to move everybody to 401k system. In some cities, you're going to actually have to go to court and seek insolvency. To me, the most important thing that any city can do, and I call upon all of you out there in the city council and all of the citizens, you should go in there and ask them to restate the pension obligation on their balance sheet. What do I mean by that? Well, they've got a phony number that's coming in from CalPERS, which is only $5 million. And so the city councilmen say, well, CalPERS told us $5 million, and that defines the obligation. Well, it doesn't really, because if you read the rest of your agreement with CalPERS, it says, and if our costs go up or our investments go down and we have to have more money from you to meet these obligations, well, we're going to make what is in effect a capital call. You will be required to pay more money. And right now, these cities can't even get current with what they owe. So places like Yucaipa there owe at least $5 million just based upon CalPERS phony numbers. So the most important thing that anybody can do is to demand that their cities restate these obligations on their balance sheet so that it will show that the city is actually underwater by about $21 or $22 million, or maybe some other number in there. That first thing is reality.
Yeah, and also I think the only way this is ever going to reform is they've got to reform themselves somehow.
Yes.
There's got to be cooler heads on that side that in the unions perhaps say it's in our best interest.
Yes.
For pension reform.
Yes.
I mean, so they've got. Otherwise, it's just going to end in disaster.
I agree with you.
It's too bad. Well, the citizens are going to lose because they're going to lose services. Everything that they keep putting this money in, and they're told that it's going to pay off. It's not going to pay off.
No,
and then the poor employees are not going to have jobs.
No,
and so the whole thing's. So the only way I see this resolving somewhat. Peacefully, I guess.
Yeah,
is if they get rational and reform it from the inside.
Yeah, it will have to happen because the unions, of course, are the campaign organizations for the Democrat Party, which are the dominant party. But all the Republicans haven't done a very good job either. Josh?
I think Chuck Reed had the best solution 7 years ago in San Jose, which is a very blue city. And there was a pension reform measure that passed 70 to 30. Mm-hmm. And what it did was it gave the current employees of San Jose their government,
yes,
the option of either staying on the pension or going to the 401k. All future employees would be 401k only, no pensions anymore. And then the people who decide to remain on the pensions, what they do is they're required to give 1% more of their salary per year, up to 16% of their salary, whichever came first as far as retirement is concerned. And
there's no question. It's remarkable. People who actually deal in money, and I'm not the only guy. There's thousands, tens of thousands of people in this state who do the same thing for a living that I do, dealing with financial obligations, financial planning, meeting those things. There are no secrets. Everybody knows it. And the reason we know everybody knows it because we've never had anybody call me personally, professionally. They never call in on the air. They never write. They never send an email. Over at our organization, Jonathan, have we ever once gotten an email from any serious person telling us that we're unjustifiably alarming people? Never.
That I know of, no.
Never. It doesn't happen, so we know what to do. Hey, we've got somebody, Gloria, Gloria, in Huntington Beach, wants to talk to us. Glad to have you on this evening, Gloria. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Today I heard, in fact it was on your station there that I'm listening to you, that we have to start paying more taxes to fix our roads and potholes. And I thought, I am paying a lot of taxes to fix our potholes, and I don't see any progress on that.
Yeah.
And then I heard that those monies that we're paying for that, for the road repairs, are going to the pensions.
Well, they're going to pensions.
Now we have to pay more to fix the roads, and I don't know. I'm getting taxed to death in California. And
that's right.
That's crazy.
Well,
am I right?
Well, of course you're right. You're the rightest person in California. And one of the articles, we can't go into too much detail, but it basically, one of the things that Josh came up here comes from FlashReport.org, which is a great blog, FlashReport.org. They always have a number of articles each and every day on issues in California. But one of the reporters there, a Richard Ryder, reports the obvious, and that is that we have the highest gas taxes in the nation and the second worst roads. So my first question, who has the worst ones? But we have terrible. So what they're doing is cost shifting. You're always going out there. When you have an irresponsible drug addict, do they come and they ask you money for food or for for drugs or for alcohol? Right. No, they know you won't give money for that. So what do? They use the money on drugs and then say, hey, Dad, I haven't eaten in 4 days. Hey, Mom, I can't pay my rent. Hey, Uncle Joe, my car just got repoed and I need the money. You see, that's what these guys do. And so the food, the children, I don't have milk for the kids or whatever it is, they use some heartbreaker con job somehow, some way. But it's all, as we say here all the time, Gloria, it is all a fraud, a hustle, and a con. And right now, what we call government at the federal, state, and local level is all a terribly dishonest criminal hoax. And there's no better example of that than this business of coming up with $4.8 billion to take care of invaders at our border because of the presumed crisis. Well, number one, and we didn't even hear Don Trump talk about it. He should have talked about it this way. That's $5 billion that we don't have, right?
Right.
You've got that old lady up there, McConnell, who's running that disaster up there, and he's presiding over a record growth in tax revenues. Taxes didn't go down. Tax rates did, but taxes didn't go down. Revenues, we have record revenues going into the federal government, and still that old SOB is running up another $300, $400, $500, $600 billion a year On top of that, and now our fiscal debt is over $22 trillion on its way to where, God knows where. No, Gloria, you are the rightest lady in Orange County in California. We're getting lied to. We're getting hustled. We're getting conned.
Yeah, and you always said this, Mike. Yeah. Just keep in mind a rule of thumb. Every tax is a pension tax.
Right.
Every new tax, it's the game. They say it's going for this, it's going for that,
right.
But it's really to cover the pension costs.
That's right. And you see these numbers.
Now we're going to have to
hey, by the way,
taxes.
hey, Gloria, as long as I got you on the line here, I would like to do a little listener survey. When I talk about these numbers on pensions and deficits and the distinction between CalPERS numbers and the real market recovery number, does my discussion make sense to you? Does it come across? Okay. Yeah. I mean,
because I sometimes I have to work on Sunday evenings, and I don't like that because I don't like missing this show. I love this show.
Thank you.
And yes, you make so much sense, and you teach me so much. And I'm really, really happy that I am here tonight because that means I'm not at work. So I get to actually talk to you. But and I do love I call them Grizzly Awards.
The Grizzly Awards, yeah. They're Grizzly.
I look forward to them, and once in a while, if you don't have time, I'm like, oh, darn. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense, and I do learn so much from you guys.
Great.
And,
well, we're trying to get it across.
For all these illegals, and I'm really scared because I'm not.
But even more expensive. Even more expensive than the illegals are the legals that we call public employees. We pay them extravagant amounts of money, and then we pay them forever. And we pay them first. And so, there's going to come a time that in their pensions are $1.5 trillion. It is just a disaster. It is not a disaster in the making. It is a disaster in the present, and everybody's tiptoeing around. And, Jonathan was talking about whether we might have some good working partners on the other side with the unions. I'm convinced that the unions and the senior members of political leadership of both sides understand everything that I understand, and I'm certain that they privately agree with me. I'm equally certain, Jonathan, that they don't have a resolution, none that they like, because for them to resolve this question means that they're going to have to go to these nutcases, right? The same people who are supporting Ocasio-Cortez and who believe that Trump was in bed with Russian hookers. Those same people, those are your public employees. They're the Democrats. They're your line workers, right?
Yeah,
how the hell are they?
I don't think all public employees we can throw them in there. Because I really value police and fire.
Well, no. I'm talking about the political operatives that run those unions. They're going to have to go to those people and tell them there ain't no more Christmas and the Easter Bunny is gay. All right. It's all over. It's all a lie. None of it exists.
The Easter Bunny was trans.
Like they're even saying you can't like the someone who owns a basketball team. You can't say the owner of the team anymore because it's racist. And I'm
That's
thinking,
right.
These Democrats need to go change their diapers,
right,
and be shipped off to some island in the middle of the ocean because. I'm really tired of it. I'm born and raised in California.
Yes.
And this is the worst I've ever seen with these people in Congress. They're all like a bunch of 2-year-olds in diapers, and they make no sense. They're rewriting our history. They're changing so much, and I am so sick of it. And I don't believe that Ocasio-Cortez, I don't believe she'll be reelected.
Hey, Gloria, I just got a 6-minute warning, and I got to do the Grizzly Awards here. But you had one closing thing.
Yes.
10 seconds.
Draymond Green, who complained about NBA ownership term, on his own Twitter, He says he's the owner of a company. So there you go.
I thought we were talking about the worst roads. Gloria, thanks a lot for calling in. Thanks for the good words. And now, music, Maestro, please.
And now it's time for the weekly Government Grifter Award. And here he is, Missouri Juan Tierra.
How are you this evening, Juan?
Just fine, Mr. Alexander. How was all the gang there?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're having just fine. You just had a fan there. You know, she said that she loves listening to the show, especially she calls them the Grizzly Awards. She knows it's the Government Grifter Awards. She calls them the Government Grizzly Awards because they're it's so wild what you report.
I'll take all. I need all the fans I can get.
I know. Hey,
by the way, I'm applying pursuant to your early discussion about victims and oppressors.
Yes,
I'm claiming victimhood status because I'm oppressed by LADWP.
Oh man, those guys are kind of the worst of the worst, aren't they?
Well, it's the largest municipal, probably the most arrogant public utility in the country.
Yeah.
Now, I have a personal bias because I pay their bills every 2 months, and they apparently have a surplus. Everybody in my neighborhood, got a bag on their doorknob.
Yeah,
those Trader Joe type bags with two of those squiggly, dopey-looking, mercury-laden, toxic government-mandated light bulbs.
Really?
But they're free.
Oh yeah, they're free, right?
Except for the ratepayers like me.
Right.
Now, before I get to our three nominees in LADWP, I'd like to point this out. They have 110 employees who make more than $400,000 in pay and benefits.
110.
358 employees who make more than 300.
Golly.
Amazing.
Let that
more than 300. Yeah.
More than 300 and how many 200? I don't want to know, and I couldn't count that high. But moving right along. Let's do our three nominees, again from TransparentCalifornia.com, recent data 2018, quite recent actually.
Okay.
The sixth highest paid guy in the place, and he's the general manager, which makes sense. He's pretty high up there. $515,000 worth of salary and benefits.
Whoa. Wow.
The highest paid guy in the food chain, one of four assistant general managers, pulls down $533,000, $18,000 more than the boss.
Wait, he's an assistant general manager?
And there are four of these guys. This guy's the top paid one, okay? Number two. Number three on the food chain is something called a senior load dispatcher, and there's about 12 of these characters. He comes in.
Did you say load dispatcher?
I don't know. I think they dispatch water and power to people who they want.
Okay.
He's the second highest paid person in the organization at $527,000 a year.
Wow. A dispatcher.
Now, here's the kicker.
Yeah.
His regular salary is $187,000, but he racked up over $210,000 overtime, and there's something called other pay, $45,000, and $83,000 in benefits. Total $527,000. He's
right.
Number one. He's doing very well out there.
Just astonishing. It takes my breath away. I mean, you got law firms that don't pay their people this well, and they don't pay them forever either. Well, look, before our time runs out here, drum roll, please.
And the winner of this week's Government Grifter Award is...
No contest. Nominee number 3, the senior load dispatcher, because he garnered over $200,000 in overtime, more than his regular salary.
That's right.
Congratulations.
That guy's racking it up.
Well, he is, and we don't know what it is, what kind of load that you are dispatching for DWP, but it's got to be a sewer load full, for us to tolerate this. And this is why, whoever you are out there, we want you to call in. One of you call us in, because we'd like to know what the hell it is that you do for that kind of money. As always, John, we appreciate your help.
His name is Juan.
Juan, thank you so much. Thank you to Brooke, our screener, and to Jeff, the best board guide in the business back there. Thank you for a great job. You make us all look good in here. I got un minuto más. So, did we ever figure out who our worst roads were?
Yes, we did.
What state?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, there you are. I know. It's just astonishing. Yeah, they have the worst housing crisis, and they're run by bureaucrats. And we don't hear with these local cities here and all that. We don't hear from Republicans protesting that we have this. They should be raising hell all the time. Well, hey, look, that music that you're hearing means that we're at the end of another show here this week. It's been wonderful having you. Thank you, all the wonderful callers. And thank you, guys. We had a nice, stimulating conversation this evening. And all of you out there in Radio Land, we hope...
No earthquakes while we're here.
No earthquakes, I'll tell you. We hope you'll join us again next week. Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, and Josh Jacobs signing off. Radio Free Los Angeles. See you next week, same time.